Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags and Metal Reviews, and today we're getting our final review of The Above by Code Orange. So we've listened to this album for an entire week straight, and I'm just going to say that I enjoyed the week. I feel like this is an album that has a lot of personality to it. There's a lot of interesting things going on. But just to get this one kind of, I guess, negative out of the way, there's a few songs, so I'm just going to list them. Take Shape, I Fly, Splinter the Soul, Snapshot, and Circle Through. Okay? So those, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 songs. I got the same vibe from all of these songs. And I gotta be careful with how I phrase that because these songs all sound vastly different. They don't sound alike, but they all give me the same vibe. And I struggled through the week trying to figure out what that vibe is. And I know in some cases it's this thing that this album does where the first half of the song or the first 3/4 of a song is like kind of like a style, and then the end is always like some big payoff, right? And I remember seeing this meme, and it was something like list a song that reminds you of this, and it's a picture of somebody drew a horse, but it's like a really crappy drawing, and then the butt of the horse is really good, right?
Detailed,
yeah, that's kind of what these songs reminded me of. A lot of them were like the first bit of the song was like and then the last part is like, holy shit, what the fuck, like that's a payoff right there.
Yeah.
So those songs I listed all kind of had that kind of vibe for me. So Take Shape, for example, single we reacted to, we both enjoyed it, thought it was great, made us hyped for the album. Features Billy Corgan. So I think this is a good song. I think it's well written, well performed, well blah blah blah. But I can't wait to Billy Corgan's part. I love Billy Corgan's part because I love, the best part about it is it all quiets down.
Yeah.
It settles down just so Billy can shine. Billy sings 4 lines, and then there's a build-up to a fucking blah. Did you notice it? It builds up to a blah. I was wondering if you were going to notice it or say it, but it does, and it's sick. So then the last section of the song plays, and I'm like, okay, what a payoff. Like, I like the song already, but I just need that ending. I just want it to come so fast. Never Far Apart is not in my list because I really like this whole song, but it's similar though. Never Far Apart's a great song, but the ending just slaps so fucking hard that you're just sitting there waiting for it to happen. But we're going to talk about that song a little bit more later on. But just to continue with this trend I'm having. So, you know what? I don't know any specifics exactly, so I'm not going to get into them really because I'm going to still sound like an idiot if I start talking about stuff that I'm not quite sure about, even though I should have wrote notes about it and I didn't. Yeah, go ahead.
I do see where you're coming from, and I in a sense agree, but here's the way that I kind of interpret what I guess we're discussing here.
Okay.
Those 5 songs are all belong to a specific category. This band, specifically this album, has a lot of songs that are just heavy, brutal, crazy, just fucking insane stuff, right? Like Vicious, like The Game, for example. That's a hard-hitting song.
Yeah.
But
for this band,
just in general, it's a heavy song, especially in context of the album. It's one of the heavier tracks. Anyway, these 5 songs are ones that are more anthemic in nature. These are the ones that are going to get you singing, jumping, screaming during the chorus. And I found myself doing that for like practically all of them. And they're
all really catchy.
They're very catchy, and I found that is a newer thing for this band. We had a little bit of that on the last record, but I feel like they really evolved into this. You know, you listen to something like I Am King, it's a pretty straightforward, just brutal kind of hardcore record. Mm-hmm. So it's like over time and after each album, they started evolving more and more and doing more stuff and incorporating more into their music. Mm-hmm. So now here they are, they have a big variety on this album because you have songs like that are anthemic. You have songs that are kind of like weird, like the first track, Never Far Apart. You have a song like Mirror, which is like kind of like the only one of its kind really on the record, which is just this mainly soft.
It's like the cool down song, really. I would consider that like the atmosphere breaking song, the shift song.
Especially because it's like you had the Mask of Sanity Slips, Mirror, and then you go into a drone opting out of the hive, which is heavy again. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it is a trend, but I feel like it's just kind of a category of songs on this album. Mm-hmm. And I think, I mean, for me, I don't have a problem with that. But you said this album has a lot of character.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think this album, a lot of albums will just like be like, yeah, it was a cool album, that was kind of like whatever. But I feel like a lot of this record has interesting moments in like every song. It has just a lot of depth and personality to it. You know, you can really feel that the songs are crafted to be their own thing.
Well, speaking of personality, let's talk about the opening track, Never Far Apart, because I feel like the song's got a lot of personality. Because I feel like this song is about somebody struggling with multiple personality disorder. And I feel like Never Far Apart is the personalities. They're always together, obviously. They're never far apart. And I feel like the song tells a story of somebody descending into madness. And if you listen to the song and listen to the way the song is structured, you definitely get that vibe, because you get the verses, which sound like somebody that's really struggling. Then you get the choruses, which are sung by Reba, and you get this cool dichotomy of personalities that are happening, but it's spiraling. And you can tell it's spiraling. And in the end, it just fucking goes hard. And my favorite line, I mentioned this to TV Fish last week when we were listening to it, I slide into your skin, I'd make a better you. What a fucking line that is. That is heavy as fuck. And I mean, the whole verse that he's saying is hardcore. But just that line just got me. I was, holy shit, that's a cool line.
That's sick.
But again, he's singing to himself, right? It's one personality singing to another personality. It's the bad personality saying, I'm taking over, and we're gonna do what I want now. We're gonna do things my way now, and it's not gonna be pretty. Blood is gonna be spilled.
Now, what's interesting too is that I feel like this is the kind of album that tells a story, but every song can still have its own individual meaning to it. You know, but
is this a concept album? I meant to look that up.
I never found a confirmation, but I lean towards yes, considering the callbacks to other albums on this record, and the fact that I think they made like a short film, which was related to, I think, the electronic remix album that they dropped earlier this year called What Is Really Underneath. But also considering that album teased this album. The last track on that record, called The Path to Paradise, has that kind of melodic line that happens in the title track, and it has the first stanza of lyrics in it, like whispered. Okay. So I think it's pretty cool that on that electronic album, which we looked at back in like February, it actually was like a small Easter egg, like, hey, something's coming. You guys have no idea, but it'll be there. So that kind of continuity is huge, and it means that there is stuff that's related here. And I found that there were relations to Underneath, sometimes lyrically. There was a song, I forgot which one, that said, this rabbit has been swallowed whole. Obviously referencing
swallowed out whole. Yeah.
In the last record. There were, obviously the glitchy noises were there. Obviously they were super present on the last album. Like there was a lot of that electronic stuff. And that's here too, but it's like pulled back, and it's kind of there, but like kind of not. I'm getting the vibe that there's a simulation theory kind of thing going on, that there's someone in a simulation, they're trying to get out or something. But I'm also seeing some kind of man versus self. You mentioned that about the multiple personalities. I'm kind of seeing that this is kind of someone against themselves.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So it's like really interesting. Interesting small tidbit about Never Far Apart. You can hear at the very start of the song, you hear someone like cutting some duct tape. You can hear maybe someone sharpening. It sounds like someone sharpening a knife.
I feel like the person's a serial killer.
Yeah, no, I mean,
they're a serial killer.
Now, I feel like this is obviously referenced in the video that they had for Grooming My Replacement, which had Jamie sitting there taped up in a chair with a bag on his head.
Yeah.
So, and there was like a guy like holding a knife, so it's like, okay, that's relevant there.
Grooming your replacement for what? Being a serial killer.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
that's what it is.
Slide into our skill, make it better you. This is the replacement, right? But also in Snapshot, there's lyrical stuff that talks about it too, like the scary part or whatever, with Reba talking. And then also in But a Dream, I don't know if you can hear it. I forgot at what point, but you can hear like duct tape ripping, like someone's removing the duct tape, like it's over.
I didn't catch that.
Which it's such a small, minute detail, but that's really cool. And that kind of brings me to another thing with this album is the insane amount of depth. There's so many tiny, very small background things that are really hard to notice, but when you do, you think, oh, that's really cool. And I remember, I think I mentioned this last week, that Jamie said that this is the kind of album where the more you listen, the more you feel rewarded. And that, I think, is very true, because the more you listen, the more you're finding stuff. And we listened to this throughout an entire week, and there were points where even like as late as like last night or like the night before. I was like, oh wow, like
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. That was really, really cool. Yeah, there in Mirror, right before the first verse, there's this little glitchy sound that was one of the ones from the last album.
Okay.
Stuff like that. I think
Just little callbacks.
little callbacks,
references, yeah.
little still just it's there's so much depth, and you can tell that they really spent their time carefully crafting this album.
Yeah. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the highlight tracks. So Never Far Apart is a great intro track. The Mask of Sanity Slips, I think, is such a great song. I think I might have mentioned this in the first impressions, I'm not sure, but I think I did. But I'm going to say it again. It reminds me of Hollywood era Marilyn Manson, but with like a touch of Korn or something in there, like Freak on a Leash kind of vibes in certain parts.
Even like Antichrist era Manson.
Maybe
like just
even,
that,
yeah,
that
like
old
just
school era of Marilyn
when
Manson.
Marilyn Manson was like really good, when he was like prime Manson.
Like,
And I mean, that's a great thing. Like that's what I grew up with. So to have that kind of feeling, it's almost like a nostalgic feeling for something that's new, which is very pleasing, right? And the vocals are good, the singing's good. You sing along with it because it's catchy too, right? It's got hook to it. That little double bass spurt at the 2-minute and 3-second mark.
oh, it's so good.
And that happens a few times in the album too. There's other songs that happens as well. It happens in The Game. There's a little double bass spurt at the 2 minutes and 30-second mark, and it happens like another 2 or 3 times where it's like tastefully done, but it's just so satisfying when it comes on.
Yeah, Max was really good with that. One cool thing about that song I noticed is that ending section, which kind of feels disconnected from the song, the I'm asleep, I am not living part.
Yeah.
The melodic elements of that come from the first section of the title track. And it's just because when the title track comes on, you're like, I've heard this before. It's because they foreshadowed it in this song, and it's just like, oh my god,
They did it again.
Did it again.
A Drone Opting Out of the Hive, probably the highlight track of the album, to be honest. But I have an issue with the song, and it's weird because I love the song. I think it's great. It's playlist song immediately. But there's like whisper rap in this song.
It's cool.
It's cool, but I'm like, I don't know. It's something like when I pay attention to it, I wish it wasn't there. But when I'm just listening to the song and it's just on, I don't mind it. But when I'm focusing on it, the whispery rap thing, I'm like, would this song be better without it, or does it need this to make it as effective as it is? I think it does need it.
It does, because that allows it to build. So then when you get to the tick, 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 boom part, it literally just explodes, and you're like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's a really heavy song that just pounds, and you got the whole band singing in the chorus. There's a guttural kind of growl that's happening when he's shouting out Drone and Hive.
Yeah,
that
song
really
is
cool stuff.
Insane. It hits like a semi-truck, and especially coming out of a song like Mirror, which is a softer song, to just immediately bam, exploding again, like holy shit. And to, I guess, go backwards a little bit regarding Mirror, it's a beautiful song. I like that the ending is almost a little bit sinister sounding. You can feel like, we found some kind of paradise here, but there's something wrong. Like there's like this kind of like drone that happens in the background, even though it's still kind of pretty, and it's like a little bit unsettling. Like there's something wrong here. Like something what's going on?
Like I winked at my reflection and it didn't wink back.
Yeah, like what's up with that? And then you go right into a Drone Opting Out of the Hive, which is just like
face shield on.
Explosion.
So the Drone Opting Out of the Hive, that's a good example of like the whole band kind of synchronized, harmonizing really heavy. But there's also songs where they synchronize and harmonize really nicely. So you have songs like Snapshot, for example, where Reba and Jamie are singing together, and it sounds really nice, right?
Yeah.
They're singing like cleanly together, and it sounds really good.
They layer on top of each other a lot in this album.
Yeah, But a Dream is another example. Some really nice notes they hit. Just really nice cadences are beautiful throughout this album. Vocally, lots of cool stuff there.
There's one small bit in Splinter of the Soul near the end where Reba, she sings something in a harmony that leads into the I Don't Want to Change thing where they harmonize together, which I thought was super cool because it's in the background and then she comes into the foreground.
Yeah.
And this kind of layering and stuff reminds me of like old school Mushroomhead, where J-Man and Jeffrey Nothing would kind of complete each other's sentences and layer on top of each other like that.
Yeah.
It was a similar kind of thing. I thought that was awesome. And another small thing I guess kind of a big thing, because it happens a lot on this album, are transitions.
Yeah.
Songs flow into each other so well and so fluidly, like it's like, wow, like they're really kind of made for each other. Like the way that Mirror goes in, like kind of has these sound effects and has the harp, and then comes into drone opting out of the hive, which then as you're hearing Max do these double kick runs, you're hearing them like glitch out parts of Mirror, or I Fly into the groove of Splinter the Soul, like just goes right into that, like whoa, that was super duper sick. Which Splinter the Soul has this just raunchy guitar riff in it that I love. Every time it comes on, it's just, ooh, that's so good. And then after that, you go into the game, which is another explosion of energy. So you know what I mean? Like this album has a lot of really nice transitions into each other, and it kind of feels like these songs are like composed in pairs, like they were meant to go together. But what's really nice is that they don't cut at the wrong time. No. You can put a song on individually, and it won't cut off weirdly, and it won't start weirdly. They're cut at the perfect moments.
Yeah, I think I'm ready to rate the above. If you're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess we've said quite a bit about this album. It's a good time to rate it. So what do you give it?
Okay, well, you know, before I rate, I wanted to say one more thing of something I didn't like, and that's probably one of my least favorite songs. I still think it's a good song, but Theater of Cruelty, I think there's parts of it that sound too much like Blind by Korn. I got a lot of Korn influence on this album, but nothing that really sounded exactly like something else. But the intro to Theater of Cruelty sounds like Blind, and it's a little bit too close to the point where it bugged me, and I was like, this feels like a bit of a ripoff. Feels like a bit of a ripoff. Just the part, though. Not the whole song by any means, but a lot of times it's homage. It's, you know, a nod to something that they grew up with, that they were influenced by. So I could be out of line here with that, but it's still something that bugged me a bit, and it is the weakest song on the album in my opinion, but still not a bad song. As far as the highlight of this album, I think anywhere Reba is doing vocals on this album is pinnacle point of this album. And it wasn't until the later part of the week where I really started knowing there's a lot of songs where she's just belting stuff in the background.
Yeah.
Like just in the background, like subtly. And it took me a while to even notice it and catch it. And I'm going, holy fuck, that is so good. That's so good. It adds so much body to the song, and it just feels really good. So as far as my rating goes, this is an easy toe tag album. There's nothing. This is a cover to cover brilliant album. Amazing songwriting, amazing performances across the board, and I had a lot of fun listening to this album this week. It was really good. Despite my nitpicky issues that I had, every song is still really good.
Yeah.
Easy toe tag.
I mentioned it earlier in this video. The evolution of this band is astounding. Like I said,
I hated the last album. Just to put that out there.
He hated Underneath, by the way.
Hated it.
Hated that album.
Hated it.
So this one being a toe tag for him is like they blew up. You know, big glow up.
Night and day.
I loved Underneath. I thought that was a phenomenal album. And I checked out Forever and I checked out I Am King. And like I said, this band has evolved so much through the years. It's insane. The amount of just the overall ability, the musicianship has evolved. The creativity has evolved. Everything has evolved to a point where this band is like helping in that ushering of newer new metal. You know, and it's like, you look at a band like Tala, they're like new core in the sense of deathcore. These guys are almost new core in the sense of hardcore, because that's where their roots lie, and they still have that in. They're still, you know, they got the hardcore in them. It was an awesome album. I loved listening to this album throughout the whole week. It's an easy toe tag for me as well. Like really easy toe tag. Really impressed with this album. Like I said, I love the last one, and I love this one too. They just killed it. Everything was awesome with this record.
Yep. So that's it for this review, guys. Leave your thoughts down below, and we implore you guys to listen to this album because it's a big toe tag album going on the list. Good job, Code Orange. More from you like this in the future, please. That's it for this video, guys. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
I'll see you guys on the next one.